More than 80% of global trade is carried by sea, and around a third of that is shipped in containers. Located just north of Saudi's second largest city, Jeddah, King Abdullah Port is positioned strategically in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, the Red Sea. The shipping lane accounts for more than 10% of global trade. The port started its operations in 2013, handling 1 million containers a year. Nearly a decade later, it's processing almost 15 million containers despite the supply chain disruptions in maritime.
I was just thinking back on the pandemic and how trade routes were upended. You know, some routes were completely shut down, unreachable. Did that change things for you over the pandemic, and how COVID really changed the way we trade?
Oh, absolutely. And remember, that was a period of time where the shipping lines didn't know which ports they could go to, which were operating fully or at capacity.
You didn't shut down.
We didn't shut down at all. So credit to the teams here, the terminal operators, the government entities, the regulators, who actually sat down and had live workshops on how the operations could keep going on throughout the pandemic.
During the pandemic, the port ramped up operations. In the latest World Bank reports, the port made it into the top 20, along with other 5 ports in the region. Jay New, the CEO, is today embarking on an ambitious strategy to grow even further.
Everybody wants to be the best. So, Eleni, you can see out of the window here the Red Sea. So it's a major shipping trade lane for the global economy. And the first point of being the most efficient is it takes only 15 to 20 minutes to get from the Red Sea into the berth in the port. So that's very efficient. So when the ship eventually comes into the port, it's handled extremely efficiently.
So logistically and geographically, it's working for you, you know, from that aspect. But then you still have to make the numbers work from that point on. So tell me about how you did that.
So when you travel to a destination, often you will go to a hub port, sit in the transit lounge, and then get a connecting flight to the final destination. And global shipping works a little bit like that. So the big shipping lines and the biggest ships in the world, which will carry something like 23,000 containers. These vessels are 400 meters long, the size of the Empire State Building. They're huge vessels that come in here. And they come into the port and they offload containers that are then loaded onto another vessel for a final destination. So shipping lines would bring containers into the port here that might be destined for Africa, other countries in the Middle East, India, Indian Ocean islands. This is an area where there are about 400 million consumers